Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm super excited. We're going to be having a conversation here with Joe Secreti. If you want to give us a hello, Joe, so we know which one.
Hey guys, I'm Joe Secreti from Maximum Canine and Dog Runner USA.
Awesome. And Nick Vannerom is joining us over from Europe. Nick, we want to tell them where you're joining us from exactly?
Hi, I'm Nick. I'm from Belgium, and I'm part of the Dog Runner headquarters in Europe.
Awesome. So we just wanted to invite everybody to join us today. We're going to have a little conversation about dog treadmills. We get a lot of questions about treadmills, the use of treadmills, why to use treadmills, and also selecting treadmills. And Nick, we first met through the Northeast Canine Conditioning and our Elite Canine Athlete Program. And how do you and Nick know each other? How did that get started?
Uh, Nick and I met each other. Actually, I reached out to Nick probably about 5 years ago. I was actually talking to one of my friends in Germany, a Rottweiler friend of mine, about dog treadmills, and Nick and I were actually Facebook friends, but we didn't really know each other like the rest of the Facebook world. But we were friends on Facebook, and I was talking to my friends in Germany, and he was talking about the Dog Runner Treadmill. And I happened to see Nick post something about a dog runner, so I actually reached out to him because at the time I was using treadmills for about 15 years, give or take, prior to that, and I was always into the next thing. Obviously, like every other dog enthusiast, a sport competitor, or a dog trainer, always looking for the next best edge. So I saw the dog runner, and I actually reached out to Nick, and I said, hey, I'm Joe from Long Island. I'm interested in the dog runner. I want to get one in the States, and there wasn't any in the States. That's how it actually started. So he was able to ship me one, which was really cool, and we got into the States. It was a Euro model, so it needed a power converter. But I used it, and we became friends just from that start. We started talking about dog sports and other things. We had a lot in common, so we kind of hit it off pretty well.
Yeah. So I thought it would be good to get started. Just people who don't know you or, know all of us, is to just give a quick little background and kind of what initiated kind of that initial interest. You already told us a little bit there, Joe,
Sure.
with the interest of the dog treadmill. So those who are listening, if you don't know me, my name is Erica Bowling. I'm the owner and founder of Northeast Canine Conditioning. And I train a lot of dog trainers and handlers and competitors and how to design fitness programs to keep their dogs fit and healthy. And for me, my interest in the treadmill is definitely thinking about it as a piece of a bigger balanced fitness program, and in keeping dogs fit from cardio, strength, body awareness, flexibility, and just I. One of the things that kind of got me thinking about the dog runner, especially, is I recently moved to Maine. I was in New Jersey, and my first winter here, I live on an island, and we had just so much ice, and it was absolutely like, it wasn't just a day or two of ice, it was weeks.
Oh
And
boy.
it was like a skating rink, and I could, just to go out to take the dogs to the bathroom was a challenge. And that was one time where I was like, oh my gosh, like I really wish that I had a treadmill for myself and for my dogs, because we were not getting any exercise. And I've got two Belgian Malinois, very active dogs. So that is my personal connection to kind of the conversations and thinking about the role of the dog, like a treadmill, like the Dog Runner Treadmill, which I have used, and I'm super, super impressed. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But that's the personal side. And then also on more of the professional side is, like I said, I work with a lot of dog trainers and business owners. They have clients and there's competitors. And a huge challenge I see with a lot of people in the dog world is a lot of limitations. It's hard to get really good cardio exercise for their dogs. Having safe places to go, can they work their dog off leash? Do they, their own physical limitations? I can run with my dog, but I have a lot of dog trainers and dog owners, they can't run with their dog. And so keeping those dogs fit and happy, and also the mental stimulation, the dogs that are bouncing off the walls. We have a lot of, dogs living in homes that are not getting enough exercise. So you start to see behavior problems there. So that has definitely been a conversation that we've had with a lot of dog trainers and handlers and competitors also, that they want to have their dog in peak physical condition. And it's really hard if you've got a full-time job and this is not your
Sure.
full-time job, and you've got family or kids and other animals. It's really hard to fit in all of that training and exercise. So that's kind of the perspective that I came from, kind of approaching the treadmill side of things. Nick, tell us how you got into and interested in the treadmills for dogs, and tell us a little bit about the history between your interest and Dog Runner.
Okay. Well, I started dog sport like many years ago. I was like 11 years old when I started dog sport. Over the years, I trained several dogs, and I think late 90s, I did for the first time some workshops in Finland. And when I was in Finland, I remember people were asking me like, "Oh, do you guys do, for example, physiotherapy, hydrotherapy, laser therapy? What kind of supplements do you do? What kind of warm up, cool down?" And I was a bit surprised because basically those days in Belgium, it was like you took your dog out of the kennel, put them in the car, put them on the training field, put them back in the car, put them back in the kennel. That was it. So basically, that moment, I already realized that people in Belgium, or the mentality in Belgium, is way behind if it comes to the health part of the dogs. So it kind of started to make me think like, why are we behind in Belgium? And of course, it took me several years to really figure it out. And then almost by coincidence, I got in contact with basically now my partner in the business. And he started to build his own treadmills. And then step by step, I got more involved, and we started to build up Dog Runner. And for me, it was really cool to see how much you can do with a treadmill for dogs and how much it can mean for the health of the dog. Basically, exactly like you say, for so many reasons. One of the reasons is, I think, you're really in control of your trainings, so you can control exactly how you want to train your dog, which is for me personally very important. Um, I'm not depending on the weather conditions. I'm not depending on time. Basically, if I have to take my dog and take him out for a run on the bike, it will take me 1 hour. Now, if I have 20 minutes, I take my dog, put him on a treadmill, do the warm up, put him on the treadmill, do the cool down, and he had a super session. So for me, that's how it all started, and basically step by step, we were just building the treadmills more and better until we kind of are to the position we are now in the basically on the world market in treadmills.
Mhm.
Uh, so yeah, that's a bit my history.
Awesome. And Joe, because you also have the competition side, you've got dogs, personal dogs, and you also have the business. Do
Right.
you want to tell us a little bit about kind of the role that Treadmill plays and the things that you're
Sure.
doing? Mhm.
Yeah, sure. So it started, like 15 years ago or 20 years ago, give or take. It was really just for my personal. At the time, I still have Rottweilers, but I had Rottweilers then, and it was really just about getting them in top physical shape. And back then I was starting to get into nutrition and exercise for dogs, and it was something common I was doing myself. That was like my life is always about sports and nutrition. So it kind of just segued into the dog world. So I was always looking to build more muscle in the dog. So that's how it started. And then as I started getting into more dog sports and competition, obviously it was about building endurance and strength and particular exercises in the dog sport where I found the treadmill would supplement that. So it was always a supplemental tool. It was never the end all be all. Obviously in the dog sport, which, training on the field is imperative, but also cross training on the treadmill has its perks. But then we started incorporating into our day-to-day business, and our business it's multifaceted. So we have sport dogs we're training, we have working canines we're training, and then we have a big pet business. So that pet world kind of opened up a whole new avenue, really, to say, wow, there's an uncharted waters here where people really have no education, understanding of how the things we're doing as dog sport people and working dog people that they don't know it exists. And it really, in theory, it should transfer over to all dogs, not it shouldn't be segregated into one category. So we
Yep.
started using them into just, we do a lot of board and train. So we're bringing these dogs in that come from these confined, suppressed household, and the typical person is, why is my dog doing this? How do I stop them doing that? So we're always looking at, well, what are the things you're not doing, right? What are the things you're not doing is letting a dog feel good. Now, you said it before, The problem is the resources of the family. Like, what are their resources? They have the ability to go out and go train their dog on a field all day on a Sunday and go for hikes and runs. Some of them, they don't. They have kids and both parents are working. So we started incorporating, again, just as a supplemental tool to say, hey, this is what your dog's lifestyle should look like. There should be some obedience, obviously. There should be some fulfillment. There should be time together. There should be some play together. So with this wrapped up package, the treadmill satisfies that one piece of the equation. So it became a big part of our business. So now when the dogs leave us, they see the benefits of the treadmill. And obviously it's a good thing that it's expressing out to the rest of the world. And then as far as our working dogs, our canine detection dogs, which we have a canine detection business, and we work in hospitals, we work in rehabs, we work in airports. We also work in cruise line terminals where our dogs are sitting in 95-degree weather and hot, humid weather, and they have to check over the course of the day 600 pallets, right? So it's strenuous on the dogs and the handlers. So we both have to be in top shape, but we have to train for that. Now, obviously, setting up a real working environment to train on is almost impossible because of time, right? So we're taking the treadmill, we're saying, how can we scale down this model but still get the endurance out of the dog? And just typical example of working a canine dog using the treadmill, we'll actually run the dog on the treadmill 5-10 minutes at a pretty intense rate, and then take the dog off the mill, let him run through a little agility course in our 2,000 square foot facility, and then make them do a run and search through the store. So that's going to kind of replicate the day in the life of a working canine. So that's how we're using it. We're using it multifaceted, and in every avenue we're seeing benefits, and the people are starting to see the benefits, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's helpful for people to to see, from pet dogs to, like I said, dogs having behavior problems because they have all this energy and no outlet, to sport dogs, and even senior dogs once they're retired from sport.
Absolutely.
Keeping them fit. And Nick, in the United States, we really have an obesity epidemic with our dogs. What's the situation like by you as far as, I mean, we see it definitely in the pet dogs. I unfortunately see a lot of overweight dogs and unfit dogs also in the sport and working dog world. And
Absolutely.
I'm just curious what it's like over by you.
I think it's exactly the same. It is the same, but the nice thing basically for us is to see that, for example, the university of one of the universities in Belgium is working together with us, and they are working now and using the Dog Runner Treadmill for their program to help people who have dogs with obesity. So, but it's the same problem here.
Yeah.
So,
Please share all that research once it comes out. I'm always out trying to get my hands on good research on fitness and health. So we might have to have it translated. I'm not sure if they would be publishing it in English at first.
I will ask and try to get it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. When you get, even if they're white papers or initial, send them out. But that's exciting to hear. And you mentioned, Nick, about meeting your partner and building the treadmill. What would you say are some of the most important things when you think about like what makes a good treadmill, and when you were, building, and as you're refining and you have different models and stuff, what are some of the things that you feel are really important, things that might stand out with the Dog Runner when it comes to the building and the use of the treadmills?
Yeah, I think what we think was really important is, of course, the length of the treadmill, because so many times we see people having like a big dog and using like a really small treadmill, which is of course limiting the dog's movement. So I think we kind of try to get like a long length of the deck. For example, the two doors we have makes it possible for the dogs to enter and exit the treadmill in a straight line movement, which is, I think, really important if you have dogs who has got like surgery or something. Beside that, we like now the new models are having a remote control, which is, I think, super important and super nice, because this way you can be in any position beside your dog, behind your dog, in front of your dog. And every moment you kind of analyze the movement of your dog. You can change something if you feel like, oh, I need a little bit more speed, a little bit less speed. I want to change the incline. Sometimes I will go behind my dog and see the movement from behind, but still I can change the speed or the incline. Or some dogs just need to be really close and beside the dog. So still, when you're in that position, you can still change change the speeds. Um, I think those are the really important parts for us. What we kind of went for. I think yeah, if you want to see the difference between a treadmill for dogs and a treadmill for human, for example, then we see many times that a treadmill for human is like it's too short in length.
Yep.
Um, Also, the construction underneath is different because when you build a treadmill for human, you have like two contact points, the 2 feet of the human. While if you build a treadmill for dogs, you have four contact points. So basically, the construction underneath is a bit different. That also makes that it's not good for a treadmill for dogs when people would run on it because you might damage the treadmill. And it's also the other way around. If you put dogs on a treadmill for people, it will also kind of affect, and finally you will also break down the treadmill for people. But I think those are a bit, yeah. I think the points that we kind of think are really important, and we try to, yeah, get them
Yeah.
in our treadmills.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. A lot of people, they want to just, if they already have a human treadmill, it's like, well, I'll just put my dog on my treadmill. Or you can go online and, find some old beat up human treadmill and get it really cheap. And so they're like, oh, look, I can get this really cheap treadmill. And that's one of the things when we talk about canine fitness is, especially for a medium to a large dog, it's just not long enough. And
No,
then
Right.
and if you look at that repetitive movement, the dog is shifting and changing its gait. It's changing its movement from natural movement. And then you start adding the repetitive motion of that. I mean, you have the potential for injury, and sore muscles and tightness because they're just not moving in a natural way because it's not long enough. And then all the other reasons that you said, that can be complicated too. And I will add this because I'm thinking whenever I saw my first dog runner treadmill is, one of the things is the quality of the treadmill, like something that it's solid.
yeah,
I've seen some treadmills, and they just seem very flimsy. And you think about, withstanding just the workload, whether you have one dog or you have a business. I mean, I imagine, Joe, you're making a lot of use of yours. Think of the miles or
Well,
kilometers
yes.
that you're getting.
Yeah, I was going to say that. So what happens to us now? Obviously, we're a dealer for Dog Runner, and typically we get a lot of dog training facilities that bought X model first, and they used it and abused it, and their life expectancy wasn't there. So now that's the feedback we're getting about the craftsmanship, the quality of it, which that's how I got me into the Dog Runner. I was using other treadmills prior, slat mills and electric mills, but the quality just wasn't the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you're going to invest in something and hopefully, use it, and it, yeah, I don't want to get something and then have to replace it, soon
Right.
after. So that was definitely something. And also, I'm a runner. I'm also a human personal trainer, and I
Right.
know when I go to the gym, I cannot stand running on a poorly built
mm,
human
Right.
treadmill. Like, you
Right.
feel the difference. It is
You
so
feel the
different.
difference. Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
it's huge,
I thi-
huge.
Yeah, I think for sure that is for us from the point of Dog Runner for sure. One of the most important parts is that yeah, like high quality is almost like the standard for us. Of course, you can get cheaper treadmills, but then I think you always have the question, yeah, how much is the price quality balance? So I think for us it's so important when people invest in a treadmill, then it should be worth the money, and I think that's for us really important. So we really choose to build treadmills from a high quality as well, from the how you say the construction part as the electronic parts as the motor, um, just
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
the total package should be like a high quality package.
Yeah. Joe, are there other things that we haven't mentioned when you think of kind of what makes a good treadmill, or, some of the decisions that went into your head whenever you went with the dog runner that we haven't mentioned?
Well, I think Nick nailed most of them, but Yeah, just the ability to the new dog runners have the programs now where you can program different programs for your dog. It has the ability to program up to 4 different exercise programs, which is nice, especially if you're looking to analyze the statistics of the progression of the dog. But he hit everything, but the quality is just there. That's the most important part. Has all the
Yeah.
features that any other mill has plus, and it's just the
Yeah.
quality.
Yeah. And you mentioned about the electric, because this is also a question that comes up, I know, from a lot of our viewers and listeners and people that take our programs on canine fitness, is they ask about the different types of treadmills, electric versus dog powered. And I'm curious what you both of your thoughts are. I know for me, when it comes to planning a fitness program, I really like the electric treadmills because you have so many variables you can control. And so when I'm building a program and you have to kind of start progressing and make things more challenging for the dog and kind of overloading the body so you can actually see improvement, you have to overload the body so you can get stronger, faster,
Right.
and build, but you cannot overload too much too soon or you're risking injury. And if you don't overload enough to build your fitness program, your dog doesn't get any better. So there's a
Correct.
fine line, in balancing. And so the variables like the speed and the distance and the incline and the fact that you can get all this data and track it and set it and be very meticulous in knowing, that I didn't accidentally have my dog run too far or too long when his body's not prepared for it, or under training. And
Right.
that's one of the things that I love about the electric treadmills, especially for building fitness programs and building fitness, is those are the things that you need to look at, and you need to have some control to actually see improved fitness. That's, I would say, my biggest personal preference when I think about
Yeah.
electric over others. But I'm curious, Nick, what your thoughts are with the advantages of like electric, and then I'm curious to see what Joe has to say also.
Well, I think it's exactly as you say. I think for me, as a dog sporter, it's exactly the same. Like I want to be in control of my trainings. I want to have, like, for example, one day my dog will show himself like in a super good condition, and then I can do a little bit more. And the next day he will be maybe feeling less good, and then I can say like, okay, this was enough for today. While if you go out and do it by yourself by running, it's almost harder because you're, yeah, away from home, but you still have to come back, so you have less control. I think for me it's exactly the same. The fact that you have so much control of everything you do, you can play with the speed with zero point 0.1, so it's you can really push to the limit. Also the incline, so you can do one day you can do endurance training and make them run for a long time on a low speed. The next day you can do more like an interval training, make them run fast, slow, use the incline more. I think that's for me the most important part. And the fact that you can control it, that the only way you can control it is on the electric mill, like otherwise you can't control. um, and on the other side, I think when people would use the treadmill for rehabilitation, it's the same. Like you just decide yourself, like, okay, we start very slow, and slowly you can build up the speed or go back to a slower speed if you see it's too much. And those things you can't on other treadmills. So I think for the safety of the dog and the fact that you can control everything and it's super safe, like basically there can't go anything wrong on the electric mill. I think that makes it for me the most, yeah, perfect tool to use, or the most perfect treadmill.
And I know some people critique it in the sense of controlling what the dog is doing is bad, but I think of like
Right.
my senior dog. If I let him go, especially if you have a high drive dog and you
Mhm.
let them go at their rate, he's gonna just he's gonna
Right.
expend all that
Yep.
energy. He's gonna do too much too soon, and he's not gonna make it back to the house. I have to
Yep.
pace
Right.
him. In his
Mhm.
mind, he's like, I'm young, I can go, and
Mhm.
I need to control him.
Yep.
um and I know some people, think that controlling that as a negative. I see it as a positive. And then also, like you mentioned, rehabilitation. Shoot, when my dogs were rehabbing or had an injury, if
Mhm.
I let them set the pace, like they would have never recovered. We would have
Mhm.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
used.
it
So
is
that's a good
exactly.
point. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Joe, what about your thoughts? You've
Yeah,
got
I,
lots of
I,
years of
I,
experience with
Yeah, I
treadmills.
think you guys hit nail on the head. So you guys, I'm the third guy, so third person, but you guys hit everything. I just want to use the analogy because I get that too. I say, yeah, well, I don't want to force my dog to go on the treadmill and make him go at a certain speed. I think it's imperative in anything in dog training, right? So anything I ask my dog to do, we have to be able to have some sort of clarity and communication and understanding to be able to read the dog. So I'm never asking my dog to do something that he's not ready to do. So he should be predicting the next step. So in theory, if I'm guiding him and teaching him, I'm going to make something that's somewhat achievable. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, if we said, hey, if he doesn't like to do it, he shouldn't do it. If he wants to do it, he should do it excessively. It's almost like saying, hey, I'm going to feed my dog 50 pounds of food, and if he wants it, he eats it. And if he doesn't, he doesn't. Well, that's not smart, right? So we always have to guide our dog to what's best for the dog. So again, that's why I use the electric treadmill, and I've used slat mills before, and I'm not against any non-electric treadmill. I've used them before, and I think there's advantages to all of them. But
Yeah,
overall, the versatility of the electric treadmill just doesn't pigeonhole yourself. You can do a lot of different things with it, and that's why I really enjoy it. That's why I use it
yeah.
most.
And I know you work with a wide range of people and owners, and you help a lot of people get started and introducing the treadmill.
Sure.
Are there any thoughts or recommendations or cautions, things that you're seeing when it comes to like getting started or tips for getting
Sure.
started, things to be aware of for people? Because you can definitely do it poorly and
Yeah.
mess things up. But share from your experience because you work with so many, a wide range of people and introducing treadmills.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback on my point was that any new thing we have to take baby steps, right? We have to allow the dog to understand what we're looking to do and make them part of the equation, not just hey, I'm putting you on the treadmill and that's what we're doing. It's making them feel good about it, right? So the next step, and for example, getting to the treadmill means hey, good dog, we're having fun together. Okay, now getting on the treadmill. So my progressive plan is baby step onto the mill, off the mill, and then slowly progressing. And at some point in time, the dog is dictating, I want to do more. What else could we do to keep playing this game? So I think the downside is people's perception of, hey, this is a treadmill. I know what it's supposed to do. My dog should just go on it. And then they drag the dog on the mill. They turn the machine on. And this has to go with a non-electric or non-electric treadmill. Even slat mill, same thing, which is it's even harder to control. So if we put a dog on a non-electric treadmill and the slats start moving, the dog has to react one way or the other. Versus the electric treadmill, when we introduce it, we're going to do one step at a time. We're going to turn it on, we're going to shut it off, we're going to reward the dog, make the dog feel really good. So I think education in all of dog training, but especially with this category of the treadmill, is super imperative because if that dog has that bad experience and then the potential owner is trying to figure out how to fix those problems instead of just proactively showing the correct behavior, which is important. So we actually just created a video we just posted on YouTube on a YouTube channel that actually brings you through the steps step by step, and we did it very methodically so people can really understand what's actually happening, why it's happening, and what the dog is seeing when it's happening. So it'll definitely be useful. People check out.
Yeah, definitely have to share the link so we can share it. I know, I think a lot of people do what you said is, I think one of the mistakes is progressing too quickly, just kind of putting the
Sure.
dog on there and thinking very quickly. And I mean, I'll admit that, I mean, with all my dog background and experience, the first time I put my dog on it, I was like, whoa, there's a lot more to this,
Right.
to introducing it. And, and I've been working with dogs and training dogs for a long time. And even I was kind of like, oh, like there's a lot of ways that things can really get messed up if you're not introducing it properly and you're rushing through it. And that would be one of the things I would say, definitely to caution people is, don't just go out and get a treadmill with no background or experience and
Right.
just like use videos or have somebody to mentor you, read up, study. It's not
Right.
something you're gonna just go and buy and have no background and just throw your dog onto it.
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, you could definitely get some big issues there. Nick, what are your thoughts and experiences that you've seen as far as either challenges or tips or recommendations of people are either getting started or even if they're possibly using them incorrectly, using the treadmill wrong?
I think mostly what my experience is that it goes pretty easy to start dogs on the treadmill. Like most of the dogs they kind of enjoy it. So in that way, I can't say I've seen many problems. Um, I think for me personally, I think my biggest worry is that people overdo it. I think that's like overdo it or overdo it too early. Like sometimes with young dogs or with dogs that are not fit enough and think like, oh, we just want to push a little bit. But I can't say that from all the dogs that I've seen that came to the shop just to try out, see how it works. Like I think 99.9% of the dogs put them on the treadmill, and after a few minutes they are just walking on the treadmill and feeling comfortable about it. So in that way, I don't think there are big issues as long as people take the time in the beginning to get the
That,
dog to know how the treadmill works. Um, but in general, I haven't seen many problems about it. So I
yeah.
think most of the dogs enjoy it, and I think that's the nice thing about it is that sometimes we hear like from people, oh, treadmill is for lazy people, for people that don't want to take their dog out, which is like totally not true. We also tell people like you still have to go out with your dog. The dog needs to go out and have like social contacts and be outside. Um, but yeah, I think mostly it just works well for the dogs. Like just yeah,
So
take
so
it
Yeah.
take
Nick,
time.
so Nick made a point. You made a point about people say, because that's a common thing people are saying, right? Hey, you're lazy, just take your dog for a walk.
Yeah.
The problem is that that type of person is saying that their walk 3 times a day is sufficient exercise for their dog. So really, it's not. So if that person was actually doing what the dog actually needed, they would see the value in supplementing with the treadmill,
Yeah.
because obviously a 1 mile walk 3 times a day is far from sufficient to satisfy the dog's needs, right? So the treadmill does supplement that, and it's imperative for people to see really the needs of the dog.
Yeah, yeah. And you emphasize this also, like the idea of introducing it in a positive way and making
Yeah.
it a good experience, and slowly, getting that dog acclimated to where they associate it with something positive. Because like I said, the biggest thing I've seen when people have gotten started is like just rushing and not making it
Mm-hmm.
that positive experience with the dog. Because when people say that, oh, it's mean to make them run on
Mhm.
the treadmill. When you see a dog that's like introduced to it properly, like I have a
Oh, they love
friend and
it.
his dog jumps on it and is like,
Mhm.
make it
Right,
go.
right,
And
right, right, right.
I have clients and students, and they're like, I have a treadmill, in the office, and my dog just keeps jumping on it and stares at me
Mhm.
because he wants me to turn it on.
Right.
So that's evidence when, you do it
Yeah.
right and
Sure.
make it positive, the dogs love it. And what you said about the other thing that I caution people on is overdoing it. Either people relying it as their sole source, using it too much and not getting a balanced, program. And another thing that I would say I see it more in the sport dog people, is they will put the dog on it and the dog has not been conditioned up to a
Mm-hmm.
certain workload, and they're not working and building up for that stamina endurance, and they're very sporadic in their training. So the dog starts to get deconditioned, and then they put them on
Right.
the treadmill and they're just doing too much and not giving the dog time to acclimate and build up that stamina endurance over time. If you're only putting your dog on it once every 4 weeks, your
Right, right.
dog's conditioned, and then their training hasn't changed because they're like, oh, last time I ran 20 minutes, let's run 20 minutes now. And just because they might be able to do an activity, say swim for a certain amount of time or run on the ground, out in the woods for a certain amount of time, it's a different type of
That's
movement,
true.
and they've got to get conditioned for that. So I would agree with you. That's the other
Mm-hmm.
issue.
Yeah.
And people need to be aware and have awareness of, if you don't know how to build a fitness program, if you have a dog and you're only walking 10 minutes around the block and you want to have your dog 20 minutes on the treadmill, there's a very specific way you can build to that. And if you're not educated on that, there's a lot of ways and resources out there, because if you don't do it right, like I said, you can be deconditioning your dog and not even know it, and your dog's getting
Mhm.
worse, or potentially even setting your dog up where you're overtraining.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, awesome.
It is exactly. But I think the nice thing is a bit what you were mentioning is that some people first feel like it's cruel, but the nice thing is to see how many dogs really enjoy to be on the treadmill. And it's exactly like you say, I have the same with my dogs when they see that the door is open of the treadmill, they already go on and they go like, please push the button so we can get started. So it's so nice to see the dogs how much they enjoy being on the treadmill. So it's yeah, I think it's some people need, I guess, a bit more education about it and realize it's like a positive and a nice thing for the dogs instead of like almost like feeling like a negative thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think education is huge. And I mean, that's one of the
Sure.
reasons why I wanted to kind of do this and get the two of you together and have us all three talking, is to just help spread awareness, whether people have never thought about it or they were anti-treadmill or they're using it right now and maybe they need to think more deeply about how they're using
Mhm.
it. Definitely, Joe, share your video. If you guys have any kind of training videos or articles, Nick, when you get research, send it over and I'll make sure
Will do.
I'll get it out to my audience. If people are wanting to know more information about the Dog Runner, if they're wanting to, check on the different models or get recommendations, pricing, and things like that, purchasing. Well, Joe's here in the United States, so in North America, but as Nick said, this is throughout the world. There's many countries. But can you both give us, our listeners, some information on where to go, if they want more information, if they have more questions, and if they're interested in learning more about purchasing a treadmill?
Yeah, sure. So in North America, you guys can check out our website. It's maximum letter K number 9 service.com. And there's a lot of information on there currently about the Dog Runner treadmill. There's pricing, there's all the descriptions about it, and we're actually building out a library on different exercise programs and how to introduce the dog to the treadmill, how to cool down. So, but definitely can send us an email as well. All our information's on there, and you can ask specific questions. I'll be more than happy to answer you guys. Also, we have a retail store. It's in Long Island, New York. It's in Deer Park. So if anyone's local, please stop by, say hello. We can check out the mills. We can put your dog on it. We'll help you introduce them to it. So, Nick, you can tell them about Europe and the rest of the world.
It's if you want to contact us, it's just dogrunner.eu. You can always visit the website, and through the website you can send an email to the info web email address, and we will always kind of help you, no matter from what part of the world you are. We will try to guide you to the closest dealer you have in your area. And for any advice or any help, you can always contact us, and we will try to help as good as we can.
Awesome. And if people are interested in wanting to know more about how to design those fitness programs, and whether it's treadmill or strength training, or in combining all of these activities and how to create these safe and effective balanced fitness programs, they can visit our northeastcanineconditioning.com. It's Northeast Canine, the letter K and the number 9, northeastcanineconditioning.com. I'm also on Facebook, and we've got, we can reach internationally because we've got a number of online courses. And we also have free resources, a blog, a lot of free videos on our YouTube, our Northeast Canine Conditioning YouTube business page. So there's a lot of information out there if people want to learn more about getting their dog fit, doing it, being wise and healthy and safe, from free resources to paid programs. So if anybody's interested, definitely feel free to reach out to me. So, any last things you want to add, either one of you, or last comments? Anything I forgot to ask you?
No, I think this was good. I think this is very beneficial. I'm happy we were finally able to get together and do this.
Awesome. Well,
Appreciate
thank you
it.
so much. And like I said, stay in touch. And as you get more information, more videos, training resources, research articles, send them over, and I'll make sure I get them out to my audience too. So thank you so much for joining today.
All right.
Thank you, Erica. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.
Take care.